Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, my dear friends and members from the family. I, TRISHA MAHAJAN, warmly welcome you all once again to your very own love show, Journey of a Poet and Beyond. So, today, in the 29th episode, I have brought for you something very exciting. Well, just a hint for all of you. A special launch is taking place in the physical world today. But what are we actually launching? That's the first question. Who's launching it? Who's launching is it? And who is launching it? Who is supporting? And where is it happening? Answers to all five of these questions will be answered in a short while as we move ahead with today's evening. So I will answer a part of five questions that are posed today. So where is this happening? Where is the event happening? This is one question that is posed today. All of you must have heard well about Prithvi Fine Art and Cultural Center. And for those who do not know about this center, it was launched way back in 2011 as a platform for exchange of ideas, meaningful conversations about art, literature, culture, traditional music, and everything around it. It started with the first exhibition of paintings by well-renowned abstract artist Sangeeta Gupta. This followed art camps, artist exchange programs, especially with Greece in 2014 and 15. Prithvi also organized a 3-day Spring Festival in 2014 in collaboration with Alliance Francaise. The coffee table book Ekam the Supreme One was too launched in 2018 at the center. Many documentaries have been produced by Prithvi, and with the passage of time, it has become a publishing house too. Prithvi has braved the pandemic time, and it has served as a platform for many events starting this year, like the live art demo, walk and talk sessions on works of acclaimed women artists in India, and celebrating womanhood in literature with Parvaz and Delhi by Foot, and a month-long ongoing exhibition, Empowered Women, showcasing works of 6 creative artists, which will continue until April 7th this year. So, coming to one of those auspicious days today when we are hosting another evening at Prithvi. Without further ado, I move on straight away to inviting my first guest for today's evening. An educationist, she has a doctorate in political theory and has excelled in teaching the same to college students in Jaipur. But it is the practice of life that intrigues her. Not only that, she is an essayist, poet, novelist, editor, TEDx speaker, and has been well recognized internationally for her poetic biography Bapu, Ballet of Bapu, by Vitas, Delhi 2015. Her love for literature germinated at a very tender age, primarily inherited from her father, a professor of English, and has ever since then continued to fascinate her. Some of her latest books are Only in Darkness Can You See the Stars, a biography of Martin Luther King Jr. by Vitas in 2019, Morning Meanderings ebook Blue Pencil 2020, Songs of Belligerence 2020, Vodka by the Volga, poetic collaboration with Dr. Koshi 2020, among others. She has contributed to many national and international anthologies like the anthologies published by poets, artists unplugged, Callers of Refuge and Resonance, many of them having figured in the highly commendable category in Destiny Poets, a UK-based poetry website. Her poetry has also appeared in Learning and Creativity, Silhout magazine, in Incredible Women of India, in an Australia-based e-zine, Mind Creative in Brian Rickson's anthology, and the online magazine Episteme, published from Mumbai, etc. She won the Real International Award 2014 for OHAK, Setu Award for Excellence 2018 for her stellar contribution to world literature, Setu Bilingual Journal Pittsburgh, USA, Keshav Malik Award in 2019, among many other awards. So on that note, please join me as I would like to invite Dr. Santosh Bakaya to join us this evening. Dr. Santosh, I would request if you could join us here this evening.
Thank you so much, Trisha Mahajan. It's an honor to be here. So nice to be virtually present at Prithvi Fine Art and Culture Center. It's a pleasure and honor, really. I was not well for some days and I was afraid I would not be able to make it, but I'm here, thankfully. And
Yes.
let me tell you a very, very interesting thing about this book. Alleys are filled with future alphabets. It's a beautiful book, of course, but a very, very interesting thing which I would like the readers to know is that Gopal Lahiri ji had been kind enough to send me the book twice by post. but I never got those books. But both times I was very sad. Naturally, I did not get the books. Then he sent me the PDF later on. But one day he asked me, very intrigued, but where is the postman? This was on a phone call. He asked me, where's the postman?
Yeah.
So I suddenly had a flash of an intellectual looking postman sitting under the shade of a tree, engrossed in reading a dog eared book frayed at the edges. And this book, of course, was Allays Are Filled with Future Alphabets. And he was a bibliophile, he was a poet of sorts. This I imagined. And I thought that this postman was so enamored of the book that he did not want to give it to the sender. So he kept it with himself. So it's a beautiful book, and that postman, that elusive postman who never reached me, he read the book and he just loved it. And similarly, I did not get the book; I read the PDF, and it's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful book. Just loved all the
Yes.
poems. The name,
Yes.
the name is very intriguing. The cover enchants, and you quickly want to open the book and want to see what it is all about. Divided into 7 parts, every word in all the poems throbs and pulsates with vitality on its own, where the real and the
Yes.
surreal urge to serenade the reader with brand new notes. I just loved all the poems. But I chose 3 poems which I wanted to speak on, which I wanted to recite because they
Yeah.
sort of appealed to me.
So
Yeah.
before you move to those poems, let us invite this man who you are talking about, and we also have a lady who is joining along with him. So I will take this opportunity to invite my second guest for today's evening. Hailing from Kolkata, he's a bilingual poet, writer, critique, editor, and also a translator. He has 23 published books, of which 15 are in English and 8 are in Bengali, including 3 joint books to his credit. His works have been published in 12 countries and in 14 languages like Chinese, Urdu, English, Urdu, Spanish, French, Hindi, Punjabi, among others. Silent Steps, Return to Solitude, Living Inside, Tidal Interlude are some of his poetic collections. His poetry is published across various anthologies like National Treasures, Concito, and The Silence Within, etc., as well as in eminent journals of India and abroad, such as Indian Literature, Arts and Letters, Underground Window, Muse India, Poetry Stop, Debug, among others. He has been invited in Sahitya Academy India programs and various poetry festivals, including World Congress of Poets recently held in India. He's a regular book reviewer of well-known journals in India. His latest collection of poems, Alleys Are Filled with Alphabets, is published by Rubric Publishers. Of the many felicitations he recently received Setu Award for Excellence 2020 for poetry from Pittsburgh, USA, has been awarded the status of International Ambassador of Peace by World Literary Forum for Peace and Human Rights in January 2001, thus committing to serve the world for peace and safety. So, on that note, I would like to invite Gopal Larry to join us here this evening, and I would also request my third guest to join along with Gopal. And I would like to invite her by the small intro. This New Delhi based bilingual poet is also an author, storyteller, served as the chief editor for her in house magazine of Income Tax Department Delhi, Parikrama's annual issue for 2016 and 17, translator, and has a publishing house that hosts commendable literary sessions. She has 25 published books to her credit, with 10 of them being translated to 8 other languages like Greek, German, Mandarin, Dogri, Urdu, Bengali, Tamil, and English. There is a collection of short stories, 15 poetic anthologies in Hindi, and 5 in English to her credit. Enza begins in Dino, Rise from Your Ashes, Nadi Ko Naav Mein Bhar, and Hymn to Trees are her 5 collection of poems recently launched in January February 2021. On one hand, where she participates in poetry events all across the globe, on the other, her poems find mention in both national and international publications of high repute. Recently, her 2 poems got published in Destiny Poets International Community of Poets, ICOP Wakefield, UK. 5 poems got published in Kavya Bharati. 4 poems got published in Voices Within 2021's edition of Setu. 2 poems got published in Volume 9, January 2021 edition of Ars Artium. A poem got published in January 2021's edition of GLOMAC, and some other poems got published in other reputed journals as well. She has been adjudged as highly commended poet 2020 in the category of faith-centered poetry. Her poems were adjudged as highly commended for October and November 2019, July, August, October, December 2020, and January 2021, and was also adjudged as commended critic for December 2019, January and February 2021 by Destiny Poets International Community of Poets, Wakefield, UK. She has recently been felicitated with Citizen Journalist Award by ICMI, along with other felicitations that she has received in the past. Along with that, I would like to invite Sangeeta Gupta to join us here this evening. So I would request Gopal Lahiri and Sangeeta Gupta to join us here with us.
Right.
Good evening, Gopal. Good evening, Sangeeta. How are both of you?
We are fine.
We are fine, but somehow we look mostly look, because I don't know, because of the light, I don't know. How do we make it better? Try and make it better. Okay, this is better?
Slightly better, yeah. No, this is better.
This
You
is
have
better?
to make it, this is better. This is better.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes.
चलो हम लोग अंधेरे में ही रहेंगे आज.
तो आपने तो पूरा शायराना माहौल बना रखा है.
I have a strong objection. You read my bio as if you are reading an article. Don't do that to me. Make it brief. Next time.
You keep adding to your bio every time I have to do the show, and then I keep deleting things and then adding other things to it.
Delete it further.
Yes. So thank you all of you for joining us here today. Thank you viewers who've joined us here today. If you have any questions for Santosh Bakaya, Gopal Lahiri and Sangeeta Gupta, please feel free to write that in the chat box here today, and I will take it as during the show. So Gopal, you've flown all over from Kolkata to Delhi. How are you feeling here in Delhi, and how is the COVID scene there and here, if you see?
Oh, thank you, Trisha. I'm fine at Delhi, and it's springtime. A lot of flowers are there. So I'm very, very happy in mood. And it's excellent. Today we have assembled here at Prithvi Art Center, and Sangeeta ji is always very warm. She has invited a few guests also here. So we are really enjoying here.
Yes. So this is my hi and hello to all the guests who have joined us here from Prithvi Fine Art and Cultural Center, which is at SAFDARJUNG Enclave. And we are doing a twin show, which is an e-launch as well as the live launch of the book, which is being written by Gopal Lahiri. We'll be talking about it, but first I would like to listen a little about Dr. Santosh, about her poetic journey, because we've not spoken to her before. So Dr. Santosh, I would like if you could tell us about your little eventful journey as a poet here, and how it all started with you.
Well, I have told my story or lack of it many a time. I was in the 6th standard when I started writing limericks, and there was this girl who came to the class, and she was a very arrogant sort of a girl. She came from Mumbai then, and whenever I approached her, asked her what she was writing, she would just give a toss to her head and say, "No, I don't know, I don't know." Then one day I came to know that she was writing a limerick. And my papa told me that a limerick is a 5-line verse, AABB, rhyme scheme. So I got hooked onto limericks and I started writing limericks. So much so that my ballad of Bapu is a biography written in verse, and the rhyme scheme is AABB. That was the beginning. And then, of course, I don't consider myself a poet. I just love to play with words. That's all. I am basically a storyteller. Even my poetry is narrative poetry, anecdotal poetry. In every poem of mine, you'll find a story lurking. So that is how it started. And then there was no looking back, because as I keep telling everyone that I am mad, and I keep trying to inject some insanity into the sane world around me. So this is my journey, or lack of. I'm still traveling, learning, picking up things from people like Gopal Lahiri ji and Dr. Sangeeta ji and you, of course.
Yes. So I think it is like every day all of us are learning some or the other thing, and that is how each of us grow each and every day. So I would like to ask you also that you also dabble into a lot of different forms of writing, and like you are an essays, you also write novels, you are into poetry. So how does it happen? I mean, just moving from one genre to other, and then moving to the other one.
Uh, there is a streak of madness in me. Gopal Lahiri knows it, and he also makes fun of it at times. So there are compartments in my mind. In one compartment I am doing something, in the other compartment I am doing something. So right now, the entire household is also divided into compartments. I am reading one book in one room, two books in the other room, writing in the other room, writing something else in the other room. So this is I can write on 10 manuscripts. Whatever you call it.
That's very interesting to know. So before we come to other questions and other sections of the evening today, I would request that Gopal and I think just moving the setting to some other place. So while they do that, I would also like to tell you if you can tell our viewers something about the different books that you've written.
You're talking to me?
Yes, yes, yes.
Well, I would love to talk about my latest book, which will hit the market any day, and that is a book with Gopal Lahiri. This is
Okay.
it's an e-book.
Yeah.
He has written some poems about Calcutta, and I have written some poems about Kashmir. I hate Kashmir, so that I'm waiting for that book. That is going to be my our latest book. So I'm waiting for that. It's going to hit
That's
the market.
interesting.
It's an e-book.
That's interesting. So now I think you guys are set, and we are just waiting for that cherry on the cake. So I would request Gopal, Harry, and both the beautiful women are there to kindly show us the book that we're all waiting for today's evening. And with a virtual round of applause, I would like to just congratulate Gopal for this beautiful book that you have come up with, and it's really interesting. The cover is really interesting, I must say. And right from the horse's mouth, something about your book that you would like to tell our viewers.
Well, thank you, Trisha, for the kind introduction. This book actually, it has spanned for the last 5 years, which I have written poetry, and that has been published in different genres. Uh, so I just compile a few of those poems and then compile this book. It's called, you have already mentioned that Allah is filled with future alphabets. And the cover design was done by a very famous poet and artist and scholar, Dr. Jharna Sanyal. She was the head of the Department of Calcutta University for some time, and she is a very, very erudite person. And besides that, she is a very good painter. So I have asked her to draw something, some illustration of my book. So she has readily handed over these paintings, and that has been made the cover of the book, which it was appreciated by almost everybody. I mean, so that's a privilege for me, and I'm very lucky. I should say that it goes very well with the theme of this particular book. And regarding the book, it has 7 sections. There are a few books which I have mentioned. That one is a few sections which I call as some are nature poems, some are city poems, mostly on Kolkata and other cities which I was there. And then haiku series, which is my very favorite haiku writing. My previous book was on haiku, Return to Solitude. So I always come back and write haiku whenever I have some time. So some selections are here. And then there's a travel series also there. I have a few places I have visited all over the world. So some of the impressions are there. So I'm sure that those poems will be liked by many. And then, of course, the pandemic, we know why I have written all those poems on pandemic, because it's terrible and we are still under that. influence and pandemic is still continuing, and it's really a troubled time. So naturally, everybody, all the poets who have I mean, they have written on this pandemic, on various aspects of this very bizarre thing, and I mean, very depressing, that, and we have to accept a new normal life, which is not very happy for all of us. So out of pain, I have written a few poems, and that I have selected for this particular book because it will have an imprint with this passage of time which we are going through. And there are other poems like you must be knowing that one of my book was called Living Inside. So there are two sections on that. One I am mentioned as Voyages In, and the other one is Voyages Out, as if you are inside the soul and then you are coming out of that. So these are the formats which I have followed, and it's about 102 poems, and I have tried to be very selective. But it all, that all depends on the readers. If they like it, then I'm happy, and if they don't like it, then naturally you will feel at the end of the day, no, I may not. I mean, you are not close to your readers or connect with the readers. So I always believe that poetry is my existence, and it is me who is within that particular poem. And yes, I do agree that poetry is always it has a tune to the surroundings and society also in that way, if you can say. But at the end of the day, you are within yourself, because your poetic soul is within you, and you try to express. And of course, that is with the human kind is there, and the surroundings, of course, the nature. And I love nature because I used to travel a lot. I used to be in a profession. I'm basically a scientist, so I used to move around, an art scientist. So you know that we have to travel a lot, and that also gives me a lot of interesting observation which I have made, and I try to put it across on this book. So these are very, in short, you can say that these are some of the features of this particular book.
Yeah. So that's very interesting that you have divided the book into several sections, exactly like 7 sections, and there is something for every reader to pick up from. So there's nature, or somebody would relate to everybody I think would relate to the pandemic time, and nature lovers would have something to read from the nature section or the other sections that are there in the book. Quite interesting is the title, Alleys Are Filled with Future Alphabets. How did you thought about that, and what are you trying to convey from the title?
Yeah, this is very interesting. You know that alphabets is about the heart in the English language. So I just thought you are also very familiar with the alleys, this narrow lanes which you call alleys. So sometimes I feel that these are the areas where if your words are filled. And why I'm talking about future, because you know about the current situations. So it's all very depressing and very, I mean, we are just devoid of anything good. And in fact, some of the people have lost interest in life also. So that's why I mentioned that future alphabet means something will happen, some new sound, some new utterances that will push all of us to definitely a much more happier frame of mind. So that's why I'm mentioning here that filled with future alphabets. So probably that will come one day, I'm sure.
And what inspired you basically to write this book? The 5 years, like you mentioned, the 5 years journey that you have penned down your thoughts into. So, what inspired you to write this interesting book?
Yeah, it's a good question. Actually, what happens, it's not that I have not written any other book within this phase of time. I have edited few books, a few collection of poems like Anthology, written by different poets, and which I have edited, which I have mentioned about Jallianwala Bagh massacre. So I have edited one anthology on that because of centenary in 2019 to commemorate that massacre. And everybody is very sensitive about that particular horrific incident, and so that is also, that book is also very close to my heart. Then I have written one book with Santosh ji has just mentioned that our next book is coming up, that is on between the Kolkata and Kashmir. But the other book which I have written a few years back, I think it's around 2017, that is Cities to Perspective. That also a joint book, myself and Dr. Sunil Sharma. He is also an excellent poet. So because I was in Mumbai at that point of time, so we have written a book on Mumbai city itself. So that is also another features of my writing in between. But this book is slightly different. Another book is there that is called Indo-American Anthology, which I have edited that particular book with Dr. Sharmila Ray, and also that has been simultaneously translated in Bengali. So that's a bilingual book, and some 13 poets from India and 11 from America. So it was a more of an Indo-American joint venture, and that also a very, very important book for our time. And there are a lot of contemporary good American poets have written on that book, and that book is called Bridging Continents. So that is also a very important part of my time in these spaces. So all this, besides all this, still I feel that I should come out with a book where I am there. I mean, there is no other person or any other poet is there. You are alone, you are writing. So whatever I have written in between, I try to express myself in this particular book. Because I think around 2015, I have written my own book that's called Title Interlude. That, of course, a totally different perspective. I have written that, but this is much more. I mean, it's more of an selection of your published poem, which I have written for various journal on various moods, on various themes as well. So I want to collect all those poems and put it in a book. So this actually motivates me to write, particularly this book.
While you were writing on different segments.
I will interrupt. Let him read
Yeah.
few poems because we have audience here in the gallery.
Okay, all
And
right,
they are just
all right.
looking at us that where is the poetry?
Yes.
Let
So
him read
Gopal,
few
please
poems,
go
then
ahead.
you can ask
Yeah.
the questions. Yeah.
Yes. Please go ahead. Yeah. Yes.
So I'll read definitely one or two poems, but I will request also Dr. Santosh Bakaya is there. I'll request her also she should read at least one of my poem.
She will read. I will also read.
And Sangeeta ji is also there. She will definitely read.
We are all going to read Gopal's poem. You know, Gopal da ki poem hi hum log padhenge. But pehle it should come from his mouth. You know, my audience are still, so curious to hear him out.
Let's start. First poem which I'll read today is Holy Water. There is a saying by R.W. Emerson that the water understands civilization well. There are no stories. The evening lights, the lamp of redemption on the muddy riverbank. Bathing ghats are drawn in shining colors, worshippers and devotees chanting mantras to the tune of hymn and harmony. Holding their heads up against the smoke-swathed sky, the clouds and the night birds make a noting, answering God's call. Amidst the blowing of conches, the rituals and prayers continue in phases. I close my eyes and feel the eerie silence inside. Holy water wets my feet.
Interesting. Very interesting.
This is another poem which I'm reading.
Yes.
These are words. I'm talking about alphabet. So this particular poem is on words. Title is Seeking Silence. Words are weaving words, kind and harsh. Some are opening new rifts. Some are found resting at the border. Some pinch into our skin. Some are pure darkness. Our words, our lies, our needless aggressions are drunk with faith and cadence. Angry feathers fly, taking senses with it. Unperformed melodies touch missing notes. Each cry gathers momentum, each twirl motion. Birds tweet whistles, uncensored. Sand-washed wind whips in painless words. Not a sound, only peace is crowning glory. Dreams are now cupped in folded palms. Dreams are now cupped in folded palms. A human voice is non-verbal in meditation. All these are knitting together into a single poem.
Wow, that's very interesting.
How a poem is made. The whole journey of a poet in making, the whole process of making a poem. And it churns the poet and it churns his soul. So that soul churning poetry, it was one of my favorite when he said, he was talking about meditation, So I also had thought that I will quote this poem, but anyway, Gopal has already read it. So, let me say a few words about Gopalda. Some poets are so deep that if you read one line, while I was going through this book, I used to stop after reading 2 lines, and there was a gap, and then there were 2 lines. I used to just sit and think about those 2 lines. His poetry is not, superficial. There are populist poets, and they are writing about good things in life or bad things in life, but they are not touching the soul. His poetry is so soul searching. I used to, while I was reading the book, after reading one full poem, I used to sit for, for few minutes without doing anything, because each line, each 2 lines, makes you feel, you go into deep thought process. So this poetry is serious poetry, and only this poetry will remain. This kind of poetry, when we are talking about eternal truths and our own truths which we have experienced, then it becomes eternal poetry. Gopalda comes into that category, and the more we hear from his mouth, the better. But I will definitely read 1 or 2 poems which are my favorite, and I will end, maybe towards the end I will read that. I want Santosh ji to read one of Gopal's poem, please.
Yes.
There should be more poetry.
Sangeeta ji, aap suna rahe? I was waiting for you to recite one of his poems first.
First you read your Gopalda's one of your favorite poems. Then I will definitely read.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. It was very difficult for me to decide, but
Yes.
I this poem very much. I still love. It's a beautiful, beautiful
Yes,
poem.
yes. I have read that poem.
Yeah. Let me recite from that. And
Right.
this is what comes in the first part, Voyages In. From where I live and take bread, it's impossible to fathom the depth and spread of the mystery and magic. Let the glass windows open. Let the glass windows open up, lighting up the stars and galaxies and wipe out the anguish and miseries. There is no scripture to tell me the right path. There is no scripture to tell me the right path. Still striving to know the difference between sermons and love songs, religion and terror. I promise I still love and desire the spilled sun over my naked skin and bone of my coming back to you again and again and again. Let us not fight over the yellow border. Let us not fight over the yellow border. A grey evening has sewn stitch by stitch our love. Unlock the lips in a slow motion. Unlock the lips in a slow motion. I still love. I promise. I promise I still love. So this is a beautiful poem. I just love it. Thank you,
That's
Gopalji.
very impressive. Yes. Thank you.
What a beautifully read,
Yes.
beautifully read. And I also like this poem so much. Most of his poems, because it is
Yes.
already a collection of his selected poems, they are extraordinary. They are extraordinary.
Yes. Sangeeta, now it's
Wait,
your chance when you can read a poem of his.
Gopal Das poem. Let me say a few things. We have many things in common. First, we are not literature students, both of us. We have science graduation background, and I feel to become a poet, it is not important that you go and do a formal education in literature. Your love for literature is good enough. And what makes us, this is the common point, because my love for literature and especially for poetry was since my childhood. And I can see that passion, that love, that deep seated passion in Gopal Das poetry for poetry. You know, and he has he is he's like a tranquil river. He has written about river, but I'm going to compare him with a tranquil river where he when he's writing about Mahanadi. I still remember that poem, and one day I would like to translate that in Hindi uh, when I get time and with his permission. He is a very tranquil, एक ठहरा हुआ इंसान होता है, हिंदी में कहते हैं एक ठहरा हुआ वजूद. तो वो उस तरह की हस्ती है जिसमें when he writes, he is completely within himself. He may title his work as in different categories where he says voices in and voices out, but the poet is always within. Gopal Das poetry is always within. A poet is all poets, mostly poets are in their own, वो अपनी बेखुदी में रहते हैं. तो वो बेखुदी जो है ना, वो इनकी पोइट्री का क्रक्स है. At times I also feel when I have to do something mundane and I don't get my personal space, then I get irritated, that. So that personal space is very important for a poet, and Gopal Da has very consciously created that personal space for himself. And I must say, his wife is here. I must say, a poet is an eccentric person. He can go within at any point of time. The family has to,
Adjust.
live with us, and
Adjust.
tolerate us. But you see the smile on her face, which says that I'm happy to be a poet's wife. I'm so proud. I can read that, that. Brightness on her face, being called the wife of Gopalda, because Gopalda is a very adorable poet, because he has got that nuances in his poetry where he can, talking about so many things where, you will think that the poetry is going to, it's here. But at the same
Hmm.
time, it takes you to a flight and you go in a different world. That kind of poetry is very rare. I keep reading poetry and I have many poet friends, but these kind of nuances are very much the forte of his poetry. And this book is it gives you his poetry towards the end is futuristic because the present is not happy. If you are not happy in your present moment, then only you will think about the past or the present or the future. If the present is happier or we are content, then we will not write poetry. A poet is not never satisfied and contented
Hmm.
with his present situation, and he is always a visionary who can see ahead of things, and guide the society in some way through his writing. Gopal Das poetry is like that. Now I'll come what I have decided to read. All his
Yeah.
poems are very good, but I also have one background which is common between us: our love for Calcutta. He treats Calcutta as his muse. Calcutta is one city you will fall in love. Gradually, it will grow on you. I was posted there for 9 years, and I have stayed in Delhi for 25 years. But when I speak about Calcutta, there's a difference in my voice, because your love for Calcutta will emanate from your eyes, from your whole persona. That kind of city is that city. So I will read, he has written 3 poems on Calcutta. Let me read one, though I thought of reading 2, but then let me read one. See how beautifully he writes about Calcutta. The rosy daydreams can choose for themselves. The rosy daydreams can choose for themselves how much they want to float away in the blue. Missing smile, miss the hugged hello of my city, miss the traffic at rush hour. Calcutta is known for its traffic, and how beautifully he says that he misses that. Miss the traffic at rush hour, the mass of people. Seasons will not be one of smoke and dust in lockdown. Sparrows and pigeons start revising the city profile. How beautiful is this? Revising the city profile because it has changed during the COVID.
Change.
So he says sparrows and pigeons start revising the city profile. The red brick building, anarchic roadways, right sitcom. Silence is the new normal here. Silence is the new normal here, so is the boredom. Not meeting people, not hugging our friends, not being able to sit with them for a cup of coffee or a chit chat brings a kind of uh, loneliness, a boredom. Okay, silence is the new normal here, and so is it. So is the boredom. The sound and aroma, spice and sweet are absent. Are absent. A diary deletes the bells of rickshaws, horns of old buses. Calcutta is a city which never stops. So either the rickshaw puller is ringing the bell, or the bus, the red bus, there is very popular, and yellow script is written there. Cafe wall will no longer store the hush and the whisper. Those high notes of peppy music, unedited voices. How beautifully he says unedited voices, because so much noise is happening and we have become so much part of it that we love that. The silence is sometimes killing. When Calcutta gets silence, you feel there is that noise which for which we were so familiar. Each is a dash of color, a healer, a layer of varnish. Chaos is a privilege now. No chaos happens. So chaos has become a privilege now. Noise is prized. How beautifully he describes Calcutta. The so much is happening in that city, and all of a sudden, because of the COVID things, there is no noise. We are not used to so much of silence in our day-to-day life. So how beautifully he describes that. Kudos to Gopal.
Thank you so much, Sangeeta, and that is beautiful. Gopal, coming to you back again, I would like to ask you again that all your books are usually revolving around looking inside and talking about silence, or talking about one own self and finding oneself. I could think about the same thing in this book as well. What do you have to say about this?
Yeah, but the answer is yes as well as no, in the sense that this book actually it's some sort of a spectrum. I mean, it has covered many things. But in some earlier books, there was some specific theme or specific mood which I have written. But now I am trying to move away from those things. I'm writing in some even food poems. I'm writing some limericks and some many other things which I try to experiment, not always confined to what you like most to write. So in that way, you can say maybe in future I may come out with some something very different, which I have been labeled by many people that, okay, he's liking very introvert, or is writing from his own soul searching poems and like that. So that change is always a poet always want that to cross the border. So which I am trying right now, and maybe in coming days there could be some changes in my writing as well.
Yeah.
But before that,
So,
I will ask.
COVID,
Yeah,
yeah.
just before that, I'll request Santosh. She was telling that she will read another poem, so which I'm very much interested to listen
Yeah.
to that.
Yes, Dr. Sindosh, please.
Okay, thank you. So let me hunt for the poem that I was very keen to read. Yeah, I found it here. This is displaced. Displaced. The anguish, the existential angst, and the dilemma of the displaced, uprooted humanity have been so well and so poignantly expressed here. Displaced is also one of my favorite poems from the book. Displaced. The anguish of the displaced. Displaced. I have slowly rebuilt my cells here. I have slowly rebuilt my cells here. I multiply. I multiply every day, image and store inside. The scars are numberless and invisible, seeming to ignore the pain of isolation. Next to my bed, next to my bed, the dull curtains listen to the wind. Next to my bed, the dull curtains listen to the wind. The soiled sheets, crushed cigarettes and ashes never know how time passes, how memory holds. If only I can piece together the light beams. If only I can piece together the light beams. Eyes don't count the teardrops anymore. Eyes don't count the teardrops anymore. Dark birds fly over the electric posts. Years are sifting through the narrow lanes. All my fingers lie still lie on the pulse of the days. All my fingers still lie on the pulse of the days, searching the roots in silence. I always imagine I'm here by accident. I just love the last line. It changes everything.
Yes.
Yeah. That's
I
very
need
beautiful.
to go back,
Okay.
go back to my roots. So this is a wonderful line, wonderful poem, and the
Yeah.
anguish of rooted has been so well expressed here. I can very well empathize with that. Beautiful poem.
Yes.
Hats off.
Yeah,
That's
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 there is
very beautiful, Gopal. Yes.
some
Yes.
roots of displacement. I mean, talking about the migration of the migrated people. I mean, if you study those person, everybody is at some point of time they are migrated from their own place. They're uprooted. So there is a lot of pain and anguish is there. So that actually trigger you to write these poems.
Hmm.
It's beautiful.
While I was,
Hats
yeah, yeah. While I was just asking this question only before Dr. Santosh started reciting, I was coming to this point only that while we are already living in the times of the pandemic, and it's a tough time for everybody, and you've written a section talking about the COVID poems specifically on COVID. How difficult or easy was it to still think about the times and bringing hope and joy and be optimistic towards the future?
Yeah, the optimism is already there in the title of the book. That actually the last poem which I will read at the end,
Yes.
New World in the Making. Yeah, that actually some of the moods of these pandemics, because we have written so many things about this pandemic, and everywhere it's the pain, the anguish, and we have lost a lot of our near and dear ones. So that actually at the bottom of your heart, you are feeling for them. You are definitely, that numbness is there, and it will be there. I have heard, and also we are also affected by so many deaths of so many near and dear ones. So So naturally, it's a very, very difficult thing to write all those things on paper. So, but still, as a poet or as a human being, you always think of bright future. So that is difficult to write. But I have tried that. I don't know how far
Could
I
you
have
read
success.
Gopal, can you read that poem?
Yeah,
Please?
I just the last poem of the
Yeah.
book, New
Yes,
World
please.
in the Waiting. Yeah. Each night is mundane and lonely. Night birds spread their wings. You feel that darkness, no? The moment I'm looking for is buried beneath the black soil. Always all those darkness, blackness, all those things are coming in your mind. Each wound I polish on the sacred stone shines in false light. There is nostalgia too. When the lizards cry, you know, those all those auspicious, inauspicious things, it crop up in your mind. When the lizards cry, the moon goes behind swelling clouds. Because clouds, the darkness, the lizards, and all those, these thoughts are engulfing you. There is a thick silence you can lean against. That is the only thing you can do it. The city is laconic the way it was centuries ago. Because we are thinking about it's a long past when we are not civilized in that way, and it was very, it's almost in the darkness we were there. The broken walls scribble, alleys are filled with future alphabets. Then the light comes in your mind, of course. It's not happening, but it's in your mind, in your thoughts. The broken walls scribble, alleys are filled with future alphabets. A certain beauty is waiting on the street with something that cares, that cultivates. So, in that way, the poem ends. That is the ending.
Let
Certain
me
beauty is waiting on the street with
Yes,
something.
Dr.
With
Yes, Dr.
something.
Santosh. Yes.
say here. I did not say this in the beginning, but I lost one of my very dear friends today itself. I got the news, and
Oh
I
my
was
God.
That's really sorry. It's really
Yeah,
sorry
yeah,
to
yeah.
hear.
Very shocking.
Every day, when we open the social media, there is one or two people who are very close to us. We have
Yeah.
already met them by the morning. So, we are going through such grief.
these were I had
Every
written
time
down.
we can express it, something new happens.
The broken walls scribble, alleys are filled with future alphabets. A certain beauty is waiting on the street with something that
Yeah.
cares. That this is the gist of the entire book. Actually, there is optimism, there is brightness, there is hope, despite everything, despite the monster, despite the virus. Still, there is hope at the looming at the horizon.
It is the end is so futuristic, and because the present is so bleak, the uncertainty is killing us. We thought that we are done with COVID, and we are not done with COVID yet. So, you feel, oh my God, this is happening again. So this kind of, a new wave of depression has come with the second strain. People are more shocked now. They are losing hope. They are more scared because we thought that we have fought with COVID, and we have not succumbed. We have won over it, and we will be able to handle it. But now, the second attack has left people more gloomy, more depressed. So I say that, to be futuristic is very important at this point of time. And his poem ends with that note. And I'm going to go, he reminds me of Calcutta, he reminds me of Banaras. When we talk about Ellis, I know ki patli patli gali mein, bade bazaar ki patli gali. I know Calcutta, as nobody's business, because I was working there in a wing where I was supposed to know Calcutta's map by heart. So Bada Bazaar, if you go inside, the alleys are there. Then if you go to Banaras and you go to Vishwanath Gali, or Banaras also is a very congested place. And somehow I feel very blessed that I studied in Banaras and I worked in Calcutta. They have distinct personalities. I have worked in Allahabad for 2 years. So these cities have their own character, very strong character. So that kind of cities will make you.
The city grows with you.
Yes, every city where you work, where your friends are. I have my best friends in Calcutta. Even after spending 25 years in Delhi, my most closest friends are in Calcutta. And that friendship has continued for 25 years. This is what Calcutta gives you. So, we have to be futuristic. And I'm going to, one of these days, I will go to Old Delhi if possible and find those alphabets which he's talking about.
Yeah, if you get there, I'm sure you'll get it. Even not on Sunday.
है ना पुरानी पतली गली
Yeah,
और पराठे वाली गली
Paranche wale.
वहां
Yes,
पे
yes.
यही alphabet.
That's interesting. So that was a wonderful session, and it was lovely to hear all of you. And
Trisha,
yes,
before you end, let Gopalda read two small poems. We didn't had
yes,
enough of him.
yes, yes.
But read this one.
Yeah, you tell me.
No, I
Or
said.
Santosh, you tell me. I mean, which one I should.
मैं फरमाइश करती हूँ.
On your
Very big. Read this.
in Kashmir.
And Santosh, you tell me.
So page 73. If you have the book.
Have the book. I don't have the book.
I was supposed to read this, but let him read this.
Why?
आप पढ़िए ना 73 page 73.
52.
Okay, so let me read this. Then Santosh will. Yeah. Can everybody see it?
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Diary page. I am on my way. Every tree is sacred here. Between each sentence, there is a moon channel passing through. Every word is visible. Every word is visible in darkness of exile years. Each door carries its own story in my village. My diary page is weeping. A window is screaming in verse. No one is listening. A window is screaming in verse. No one is listening. Enough of rain. I fill memories with Saptaparna leaves. I fill memories with Saptaparna leaves. Beneath my words, your allure has a sense of spontaneity.
Isn't it beautiful?
And most probably next book is coming and the title will be Beneath My Words. So if people can wait for that.
We would definitely wait and would like to hear you. Yes, yes.
And any, Santosh, what's your request?
52.
52.
Page 52, I think. Santosh, it is 52? You're talking about 52?
I said 50. I said 52.
Me too. And
Trisha, okay.
Okay.
Well, now I will read Trisha.
Let's have your favorite now.
Yeah. Transit. Yeah, this is also a migration poem on migration. There's an anthology is coming out on migration poem. So this poem is there also. Transit. I hear the sounds of gunshots, screams, and death down the block. Another brother shot dead by the police. I mean, this violence is happening every day, everywhere in this world, some way or other. The canvas door of the tent summons dreams. Inside it, the alarms and future targets. The night sky scrawls soft word on the sky. Ruby planet glistens, folding the family histories. They bear the stamp and deadlines. Ghastly shadows weave the dimness. The most important secrets strand on the shore. Write judgment on the foolscap papers. Memories are like grey clouds in your eyes. Drop tears on the fresh grass, barely enough for this nomadic trail. Unloved, uncared years of torture and neglect. Bleeding heart seeks the needles of rain to attain life without boundaries. I mean, if this happens without boundary, because everywhere there is some boundary or other between each human being and the country and the places. So we are in transit actually. So that reflects that mood.
Gopalji, sorry for this confusion. I also see signs under the chinar tree. Under the chinar tree, the can now control tiny cruelty, screen every breath. But the Jhelum River, with its soft palms, crumbles the mystery and silence one by one. Such a powerful visual imagery.
Yeah, you can understand better because it's your area
And
and
can
Also,
visual.
yeah, I was in Kashmir for 2 long years.
I was also there, but I couldn't forget Kashmir, and I want to go again. I don't know why. Maybe next year or this year. So Kashmir is.
Vimi has a question. She's asking about Saptaparni.
Yeah, it's a tree. It has a very peculiar type of leaves, which normally these trees are not very frequent, very common here. Something very uncommon, and some people say that it's not very auspicious also. So
Sapt means 7. सात पत्ते जिसमें हो इस तरीके से सप्तपर्णी. Bengalis have such beautiful names for trees, Sonargas and this Saptaparni, Aparajita, Aparajita का फूल काली को चढ़ाया जाता है. So all that is so involved in the culture of Bengal. I can talk about Bengal for for us, yeah.
we have our youngest. If you have any questions,
If you want to ask any question or you want to say something. Yeah.
Before I thought that he meant that the future poets, like the future poets, will come out. They won't come out of the palaces. They will be coming out of these
Please.
and the islands.
What a beautiful interpretation. Every person has a right to read the poem, perceive the way they want to. That's the beauty of poetry.
On that, I had a question. Like for future poets, right? Like, I mean, this is mostly about observation, about observing. So for future poets, I have probably it's not related to this book, but in terms of there are a lot of times future poets when they want to get published, there are a lot of restrictions on them by publishers, probably by mainstream publishers, where they want to interpret the way these young poets want it to be interpreted. So I mean, do you also feel those things?
He will address your question.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very interesting question. And yes, as a young poet, even when we used to write in our younger days, those hurdles and obstructions, that will be there. That is in a different plane in different times. I mean, your case right now, we have passing through different phases. So it will be there. There will be some obstacle, and everywhere it's a history in the. I mean, if you just look into the world history, there will be resistance. I mean, we say that we need freedom of speech, and we must speak for ourselves. So definitely it is required also, but especially for the poets or writers or the speaker or the activist, whoever is there, they will find their own way to come out and to write. So nobody can stop to come out your.
If you cannot stay center stage and say your thing, you will go in the alley and then something will come out from there. Every creative person will find a way, whether artist or a poet, to create something which the person wants to create.
Yeah. That will be there. I mean, you will find your own.
For any creative person, it's a long journey. He must have 40 years. And same, my first book was published in 88. So that kind of journey, and the journey is beautiful. It may be tough, but challenging also.
There will be resistance. It's a part of our life. But the way you have to find your own way to come out.
You have to enjoy the journey. Yeah. That's it.
Don't be very disheartened.
Enjoy the journey.
Nobody will give anything on platter. So you have to make your own way. So that's it, Trisha. It's a very young poetry is here.
Yeah.
Nikhil and
Nikhil has become a frequent visitor to Prithvi. I must thank him for that. He came for my talk, Art of Seeing. Then he was there for women writings and poets last week, not even 1 week, isn't it? Few days. So, and he is very keen to bring his students here, and I am very thrilled to get youngsters to see our thing. So, Prithvi is trying to get all generations. Here we have, कई decades के लोग बैठे भी हुए हैं, and the art also depicted on these walls are from different decades of women artists. So, Prithvi's main endeavor is always to bring people together of different walks of life.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Yes. So, one message that you would leave for your readers, Gopal, from the book that they can hook onto this book and just grab it from Amazon and elsewhere. One message from you.
Yeah, definitely it is available in Amazon, so people can go and grab it. And the message is that read books, whether it is electronic or on paper, but you have to read. Reading must be there. And you have your own assessment. Don't go by some other's opinion or anything. You just go there, read independently, and have your own thoughts. And I'm happy that I can share with, if anybody has any thoughts on this, you can always contact me, and it is there everywhere. So I'm sure that I can be contacted, easily available. And so in that way, we can connect with the readers. I want that my message is to connect with the readers, and I want their feedback.
Yes. How about Dr. Santosh? One message from a poet and author to readers. What would you like to say?
I would love to tell the youngsters, the young readers, that they should read a lot. In my creative writing workshop and all, I have come across youngsters who don't read at all. But this is very, very important. How will you write if you don't read? So reading is very, very important. Read whatever you can lay your hands on, good, bad, or the ugly, and then you'll gradually find your own voice. So reading is very important, and then you can write.
Yes.
Right?
Interesting. Yes.
Fine. Don't write. Just write. WRITE. Don't worry about being right, whether you're doing the right thing.
Whether published or not.
Great thought. How about you, Sangeeta? What do you have to say to your young readers? No message.
Love poetry, love life. If you love life, you will love poetry.
Yes. So once again, I would like everybody to have a virtual round of applause for Gopal's book, which is Aliza filled with future alphabets.
Thank you,
And yes,
Prithvi is privileged.
yes,
Prithvi is privileged to have a poet like Gopal being with us and sharing his book here. And I look forward to many more such events in future. When Santosh can travel, she's most welcome to Prithvi. And we look forward to many more such gatherings, many more new books, new launches. And as usual, you have been a good host. But next time, my CV will be only 1 minute.
I will have something else next time added to it, I'm sure. So thank you so much. I have some comments from the people who have joined us here this evening. I would like to share it with all of you. Shaji K. Nair says best wishes to you, Gopal. Uh, Muhammad Amjad Khan has written something. I think it's in Bangla. I cannot read. I'm really sorry. You have to read that, Gopal, later on, and you can reply to him as well. Lovely Chandra has passed on her wishes to you, Gopal. Renu Sharma has written in interesting and extraordinary poetry. Congratulations, Mr. and Mrs. Gopalji. Best wishes. Jyoti Arora Katpalia has written lovely after listening to your poetry. So some of these comments and many more will flow in as and when we have this broadcast over. So congratulations once again for this beautiful book, and I am sure this will do wonders just like every other book of yours. So thank you so much, all three of you.
We really thank all the audience who are here physically present and
Yes.
also who are online who have joined us. Jyoti was very scared because she was supposed to be with us here, but she couldn't make it. But I am glad that she is listening. She is a professor of English, and her views really matters. And please thank special thanks to Shaji who has joined. He's a great poet himself. So we are honored to have such poets and such writers, such learned people as our audience. Thank you so much.
So thank you everybody. Thank you Gopal Lahiri. Thank you Sangeeta Gupta. Thank you Santosh Bakaya for joining us here for today's evening. Thank you, a dear audience, right there from Prithvi, and also of course from people who have joined us here online. It was a wonderful session, and look forward to this beautiful book written by Gopal Lahiri. Alleys are filled with future alphabets. We'll be soon be back with our 30th episode very soon. If you liked watching today's episode, please don't forget to like, comment, and share your feedback at official Sangeeta Gupta or at Trisha Mahajan 89. We would love to read your feedback. We'll soon be back with the 30th episode, like I just said. Good night. Take care. This is Trisha Mahajan, Rise and Shine. Thank you so much. Thank you. I take care, everybody. Bye.